We are 4 days away from the big day, and I'm on pins and needles. I'm very concerned about this. I already have heartburn just thinking about Tuesday, although I am cautiously optimistic. But I want to do an entire deep dive special with somebody that I believe knows more about this process, what it takes to really get the insight into what we expect to happen on Tuesday. And that is our friend, of course, the host of the Sean Spicer Show and former White House press secretary, Sean Spicer. I'm leaning on you, Sean. I hope you're bringing the good word of optimism and joy, which I hope will cometh in the morning on Wednesday.
I've got the joy and the vibes. I brought both.
So let's dig in. How are you feeling? And be honest with me. Like, where is the optimism compared to 2016 and compared to 2020?
Oh, great question, because that's the context. 2016. So whenever you're on a campaign, no matter what the polls say, you always think you're going to win. So I felt that in 2016. You think about, just to understand the context. Everyone said you're going to lose. New York Times was 95-5. But we had good signs. We were getting told, like, we had positive feedback. But when everyone around you is telling you that you're going to lose, like, there's an element of like, God, maybe I should second guess myself, whatever. So we felt good. Our data guys felt good. And I always tell people, Tommy, that like the win at 2016 will never be felt again, because when you're being told you're going to lose that bad and you win that big, 306 electoral votes, the delta between what the expectation was and where you ended up with is so great. It's kind of like when you win and you're supposed to win, it's good, but it's not great. When you lose and you know you were supposed to lose, same thing. In 2020, I got to be honest with you, because of COVID and everything else, I didn't feel great going into election day. And when I would call the data guys that I'd worked with, they were like, there's a path and da, 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 da. I had James Blair on my show this week, who's the political director of the Trump campaign, and we went through every battleground state and the tier 2 ones. And the difference is, I don't care about predictive markets. I don't care about yard signs. I don't care about vibes. I care about data. Mm-hmm. When you look at the voter registration and the early vote numbers, they're phenomenal. Like in Vegas, Democrats have crushed us in early vote forever. Clark County, which is down where Las Vegas is, in Washoe County, those are they run up the score, and then we have to make it up as Republicans. Republicans have been leading in the early vote. That doesn't happen. Allegheny County in Pennsylvania, out west, that's where the Democratic stronghold is. All of the new voters in Allegheny County, Republican voters, are new or low propensity voters, meaning these are not people who normally vote. And Allegheny County voted 86% Republican on election day last time. So all of this great news that's coming out of parts of Pennsylvania in terms of the early vote for Republicans are people who normally don't vote. So I have Trump right now at 312 electoral votes. And when you put a number out like I did, either you're going to laugh at me on Wednesday or Thursday and say you were totally wrong, or I'm going to be right. And so if I was wrong, I'd hedge and say, I don't know, I feel good, whatever. I really think this could be an epic night. New Hampshire, which has been out of play, 4 electoral votes there up north. Trump is up by 4 points. I believe that we will see him there in the last waning hours of the election. He's going to make a stop, I think, in Virginia. I think Virginia is in play, but they know. Look, in a campaign, Tommy, 2 most valuable things: time and money. And you can always tell when someone tells you, something's happening, whatever. Are they putting time or money where their mouth is? Virginia, I think you're going to see that towards the end. I think maybe in New Hampshire. But I can see a scenario where he exceeds 312 electoral votes. He takes the 4 out of New Hampshire, gets to 316. But trust me, we have a couple days left right now. So I don't want people taking their foot off the pedal. Oh, I don't need to go vote, whatever. Yeah, we need to swamp it. But I can see a really, really good night for him.
Oh, I hope you're right. Going back to 2016, listen, I was all in on Trump. I was all in. I thought he was going to lose, though. If I'm being honest, I was so excited, but I was like, you know what? Hillary's probably going to be our president. I don't know if he can pull this off. I was nervous, but I actually wasn't as nervous in 2016 as I was in 2020, because in 2016 I had just kind of assumed that he was going to lose. And you know what? I wasn't in the room with y'all, but I kind of felt like when Trump was announced that he was the winner, I felt like he was kind of shocked. Like I think he was kind of like, I
Tomi,
did it.
First of all, listen, there's two things about election night that I think are funny. Number one, I always love telling people this. The Hilton Midtown was a cash bar. Like this was not a party. We were like, hey, can we get a room and a cash bar? That's not the sign of a winning campaign, right? And when Trump at about 11, what time I could look at, so we didn't have a campaign photographer. This is historic. You think you're going to win? I took the pictures. They're on my phone for the up until like, I don't know what time it was. I literally was the guy running around taking pictures and videos because I was like, I'm a political dork. And I was like, I want to make sure for history that I was here. And I walked up to the president at one point. I thought it was Wisconsin. No, that was late. What state? And I said, congratulations, Mr. President-elect. And he said, not yet. He was so superstitious. And then Hillary called just after, I think it was 2. But I'm telling you, it was like piecemeal. Like we were watching the results come in. Same thing. I wonder if I can do this while I'm here, but I literally, we were down in this small, tiny room trying to do this on the fly with you. And I mean, we go downstairs. I'll pull this up as we go. And there's this tiny room where, here we go. I don't know if you folks can see. This is like a little closet, a utility room.
Yes.
On the 5th floor of Trump Tower. We have maps up. That's Bill Stepien right there. Eric Trump in the, I don't know that it's a pink shirt.
Here we go. Yeah.
But like, this is just us looking at these results coming in. And I mean, that's what we had set up. It's just, and you see no photographer, no fan. That's Mike Pence in the middle. I mean, we were just sitting there watching this thing, and all of a sudden it was like, oh my God, we were looking at Broward County came in early, and that should have been a blowout for the Democrats down there, just north of Miami, south of Palm Beach. And we're like, oh my God, if Broward County is not a blowout, this is good for us. And we're watching parts of North Carolina come in, Northern Virginia. These are polls that close 7, 8 o'clock, and they weren't the margin that you would normally see a Democrat win by. And we're like, oh my goodness, I think we've got, like, something's going on.
Yeah, and it was such a magical time, Sean. But you know what? You're giving me a lot of hope and optimism, because as bad of a candidate as I always thought Hillary Clinton was, Kamala is so much worse. I cannot, if I were to say, like, who do we want to run against? It would be Kamala. It would be like, there it is. This is who we want to run against, because in my opinion, and I was really reticent to say this, but now I will just full out say it. I think she's stupid. I don't think she's very smart. So the fact that that's what we're running against, and the fact that we beat Hillary, we the collective, we beat Hillary in 2016, that gives me a lot of confidence. 2020, I thought we were going to win, but the COVID stuff, people were insane with the COVID stuff. People were like, oh my God, Trump won't keep us in masks. Trump will reopen things. Like, we must save everybody. We're all going to die. And so it was such a weird year. The election rules changed. Obviously, huge benefit to the Democrats. Republicans didn't want to play the game, didn't want to early vote, didn't want to mail-in vote, didn't want to do any of that stuff, because we were like, no, we're showing up on election day. And I think a lot of people ended up staying home. The lines were long. They were still scared of COVID. But I feel good. I feel cautiously optimistic. And there's another thing that obviously recently happened that it might not be the difference maker, but I don't think it'll hurt. And that is Joe Biden, who is, on the same song sheet as Kamala Harris, calling us garbage. And I think that that's going to help. Now, what is your analysis? Can I make one point here,
yes. Tomi? Just, I have to get on my soapbox for a second. The other day when that happened, so I'm just trying to think back. It was Tuesday night, Wednesday morning when everything happened. Tim Walz got himself booked before this on ABC and CBS. Like, that was already booked, for anyone who thinks that somehow he drew the short straw. Like, he was already planning to do this. And I got asked a lot on Wednesday, what do you think about how Tim Walz answered the question? And I said, hold on a second. Stop. It's not how Tim Walz answered the question, which was fine. It was what he was asked. This is what George Stephanopoulos asked him. Republicans have seized on comments that the president made. We didn't seize on anything.
Yeah.
Like, you guys hit the drum for about a comedian for 4 days who bombed a joke. And suddenly we're seizing on comments like we made them up out of nowhere. And then he says, this is the actual question that Tim Walz was asked by George Stephanopoulos. Did he, President Biden, step on her message? I'm sorry. Every Republican, including myself, was asked, do you denounce the comments made by this comedian? Should Donald Trump apologize to every Puerto Rican that's ever lived? And for 72 hours, that was the narrative. President Biden comes out and calls 75 million Americans garbage. And George Stephanopoulos says, did he step on her message? Oh, I mean, it's not the answer. I think Waltz was even surprised. He's like, I thought you guys told me this was going to be tough. He was like, not really. Okay, next question. Tim, how are you enjoying the campaign right now? How's the hot sauce? And I mean, like, it's embarrassing the level to which the media has shown how biased it is. So look, I get why they don't want him on the trip. By the way, that was embarrassing, right? There's the White House in the background. You can see Biden pacing back and forth in the halls there. Hey, Jill, what's going on in the mall tonight? Where is everybody? And they're like, Joe, come have dinner.
You know, what I think is also funny is he once again just crapped on her big moment. I mean, it was during the hurricanes. She was trying to give, she was doing all of her whatever. And Joe Biden like cuts in to do his hurricane response, congratulates DeSantis for what a wonderful job he had done. Also says that DeSantis has been wonderful to work with. Just cut Kamala off at the knees with her whole like faux DeSantis feud thing. And then now she's giving her big moment in DC. She wants this to be like the moment for her, right? And then Joe Biden is sitting on a Zoom maybe a couple minutes before his Betty bye. And he's like, yeah, Trump supporters are garbage. Just crapped all over her. Nobody cares about the clips from the ellipse speech. No one cares about Kamala's big moment. Nobody cares that she got 75,000 people in DC to show up for her. All they care about is Joe Biden behind a computer screen calling people garbage. And I think he did it on purpose, Sean.
So, you know what's interesting? If you had asked me that a month ago or said that a month ago, I'd be like, come on, Tommy. And I am now buying into this theory that two things are happening. The Bidens don't feel like they've been shown the respect that they want. They want to prove that they were the only ones who could beat Trump, and therefore they want her to lose. I agree. So I've come to Team Tommy on this one. And then I've also started to come to the realization that I think that the Gretchen Whitmers and Josh Shapiros also want her to lose, because they'll be out of office if she wins and then would run for re-election. They're done. They're gonna do whatever. And this is it. So if she loses, they get to run and they get their chance. If she wins, they'll have to go get a contract at MSNBC.
Right. I believe that fully. And that's also, my big theory. I always knew Joe was going to be pushed out. I thought it was going to be someone better, like a Gavin Newsom that's going to take the place. But then and people are like, oh, Tommy, you were wrong. And I'm like, listen, I was wrong. But also, I don't think Gavin wanted to run. I don't think he did. I don't think people that had.
That's absolutely right. Because Gavin's like, dude, none of these guys wanted it. You think there's a reason that they all were like, fine, you take this 3-month post Joe Biden thing. I'm good with that. Right. They knew if would you want, it's like somebody saying, hey, the Indy 500's going on. They're on their last lap. But if you can get in the car right now and catch up, you're good. You're like, are you insane? That doesn't work. I can't catch up. So these guys were like, yep. Because here's the other thing. When she loses, she's done.
Yep.
You can't say I got all the money. I got all of this handed to me. And then by the way, I ran in 2019. I had to drop out at the beginning. Then I got handed the keys in the final lap. I lost that, but I'd like to go one more time. I mean, that's not going to happen. So she's done.
And in my opinion, this was all choreographed. I know it seems like, oh, you guys were pushed into, putting up Kamala because the DEI thing, and you promised the black woman you can't surpass her. No, I think this was all also choreographed. It's like, we'll have Kamala do it. We'll just understand that we're going to lose this one to Trump. Fine. Kamala will lose. We'll take this one. And then we'll have our better people coming up in 2028. And we won't have to run Kamala in 2028 because we already got rid of her. We already said, hey, we gave you a shot. You lost. Now you're done. Kick it, toots. And then the actual people that could actually win an election, who are much smarter and brighter, they'll actually have an opportunity to compete not against Donald Trump, but against a Republican. That's what they want. So I'm also hopeful that Democrats have also decided that they've kind of cut ties with Kamala. USA Today not endorsing, Washington Post not endorsing, LA Times not endorsing. That to me is more indicative.
Muslim groups not endorsing, unions not endorsing, firefighters, Teamsters. Like, yeah. Joe Biden would have gotten all those guys.
I think that they don't want to hitch their wagons to her. They're like, you know what?
No. In sports, they call this a rebuilding year.
Yes.
Like we will take the crap. We get it. We're gonna lose. We want the fans to know that we're rebuilding. Yeah, that's what this is. They are like, I got it. We'll take the L.
And I really hate to talk about this so close to the election because I hate getting cocky. I am also superstitious. It's like, again, 2022, the big red wave. We thought it was going to happen. We thought there was just no way we can't have a red wave here. And then we lost, I believe, because of the abortion issue, which I don't think is as hot as it was in 2022. But I want to ask you about that. So, talking about polls and internal polling and what 2022 is supposed to look like, everyone was feeling pretty good. Didn't go the way we wanted it to go. Are you at all worried that this could follow that same pattern?
Sure. Yes, a little. But the difference is 2022 is a midterm. It's harder to poll. The universe is different. And so if it's off like 2024, Trump crushes it like massively. If it's off like 2022, she could squeak it out. I don't think it's like, but the problem is 2022 is a midterm. Very different universe of voters, smaller, more committed. You got a lot of newly registered and low propensity people who only vote 1 out of 4 or 2 out of 4 elections in a presidential. So I will tell you what does worry me is in the early vote, Republicans are crushing it. We know that through party ID, meaning we know how many people are registered or have been modeled as Republicans, modeled as Democrats. But the one statistic that gives me pause is in those same models, women are outpacing men in the early vote. And there is a lot of data to suggest that a high female turnout is because of how they've made abortion an issue, benefits her. And so there's one data piece that concerns me. It's that.
Agree. And if we lose another election due to abortion, I'm going to rip my extensions out. I promise you I will. No, I won't. They're too expensive. But I will tell you this, Sean. I will have one caveat to that, though. I early voted. And I rarely early vote because I always like to go on election day. But I'm busy, and if I'm given the opportunity, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to early vote because I don't want to be stuck in a line on election day. I got things to do. Kind of an important day for our business. So I early voted. I'm obviously a woman, a conservative. I voted for Trump. But I think there are also women out there that have always voted on election day who are Republicans who are like, you know what? I'm going to have stuff to do that day. Let me vote early. So I will. Right. I'm still going to be optimistic about it. But you're right. A higher female turnout is a concern. If they're jazzed up about abortion and they saw the Julia Roberts ad where they should lie to their husbands. I'm sure you've seen that one, Sean. What did you think of that?
Look, here's what I'll say. I believe this is all they have. Right. This is the only issue. This is the only motivating factor. I'm with you. I think that a lot of women it's a very shallow view of what women care about. You know, I know a lot of women. I have a lot of women in my life who care about how businesses are performing, who care about families, who care about trans issues, who care about the economy, who care about business regulations. Like there's a lot of things in it. So I feel like the other side is basically when people ask me why they did this, part of the answer is they don't have anything else. What are you going to do? Campaign on the strength of the border? Are you going to talk about inflation? I mean, they've got. You're
going to talk about Kamala and how dazzling she is?
That's all they got. It's like they come back and the data says, here's all the stuff that matters. But unfortunately, the only thing that works for us, that we can actually talk about, because if she wasn't going to be honest about the border, if she wasn't going to be honest about inflation, then the only thing left, it's like, well, the only thing we got is abortion.
The only thing they have, but I do think in 2022 it was a much bigger issue because it was so fresh. Now I think Donald Trump and JD Vance have navigated the issue fairly well. And maybe some women out there, they're looking at the abortion issue, they care about it. They also know a lot of their states are codifying abortion, so they're happy about that. But I think they're also looking at the violence against women in their communities by migrants and other thugs and felons, and they're like, yeah, I care about abortion, but I also don't want to be mugged and raped and slaughtered by a Biden-Harris illegal, and I also don't want my kids reading gay porn in schools, and I also don't want men competing against my daughters in sports. That might edge it out. Do you think that the social issues in this case might actually even advantage Republicans in some sense of the word?
Yeah. I mean, look, I think that the issue with respect to trans is twofold. One, a lot of parents want to protect their kids, as you pointed out, right? And then the second thing is a lot of women fought hard for equality in sports, Title X, things like that, and say, are you kidding me? Like, I wanted to get a scholarship. I wanted my kids and relatives. I mean, like, they fought for these things, for this equality. And suddenly they're like, now a dude's going to come in and take it away from me. That's part of it. The second thing is we were sold a bill of goods about the economy being transient, like some of this inflation. Remember, it was, it's like for like 2 days, we'll have inflation and everything will back. And so 2022, we're still some people were still buying into it. After 4 years, people have started to say, okay, we even gave you a chance. This election is so historically unique because I did my first campaign 30 years ago, and you come in and you always give promises to people. My candidate will do this. It's a hypothetical proposition. If you elect me, I will do the following. And here's the contrast I present with my opponent. Donald Trump can say, all you have to do is look at my 4 years. You either like my record or you don't. If you don't like it, vote for them. If you do like it, And so part of this is also, so that's what he can say. And then when they attack him and say, he's going to be a dictator day one, and he's going to do all this stuff, and he's going to blow up the world, and he's going to have an attack with Martians, they go, wait a second, he was president for 4 years and he didn't do any of that. So they face a challenge in attacking him because he has a record, and he has an advantage because he has a record, because we can talk about the border and the economy. He can say, did you like it? Full stop. If you did, I'll do more of that.
Agree with you wholeheartedly. And I think he's in a strong position right now. We'll have to, again, wait and see. I don't want to get overconfident, but in the spirit of getting a little bit overconfident, I have 2 closing questions for you. One, if Donald Trump wins, how is the left going to react?
Okay, this is a really interesting question because I have always tried to say, people will blah, 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 be grown-ups. And I didn't want to ascribe traits to a group. I went and did an event with a bunch of Dems. And someone who I think is fairly reasonable on the left said, we will burn it down. Direct quote. I think they're going to go nuts. I think it's going to be a combination of the Women's March 2016 with BLM.
Mm. Yeah, and it also was that in 2016. BLM and Me Too with the pink hats and the BLM. I mean, that really, and that inauguration, obviously you were there. I went to that. That was my first experience actually being in like the mess of it all where people were actually violent. So I expect that and worse. Because they also learned from 2020 that they can get away with about anything. And I'm not talking about January 6th, 2020. I'm talking about the whole summer before January 6th. They've realized they can do about whatever they want.
Yep. So it's going to, I take their word on it. You're talking about Kamala's word, I will take their word on it. I think that they're going to go nuts. And Mark Halperin, who I do this thing called a morning meeting with every morning, said on Tucker's show the other day that there's going to be a mental health crisis. And he wasn't joking. I think that they are literally, I remember my kids were young when 2016 happened, and in their nursery school had like a mental health day.
I remember the colleges with their cry-ins and all this stuff, but I also remember just the nostalgia of all of it. I was at the Blaze at the time. My boss, Glenn Beck, did not want Trump to win. Weird. Nobody in that building wanted Trump to win. weird. That's a different story. But I will tell you this, 2016 was such a beautiful year and such a beautiful election. I remember, and I talked about this the other day, but I remember going into the holiday season, I'm sure you more than me, like Thanksgiving was so wonderful, Christmas so wonderful, New Year's so wonderful. It was just like blissful. And I want that so badly for us. My last question for you, and I'm asking you just to make predictions and maybe based on your, inside knowledge of this. Who do you think is, if Trump wins, who's the White House press secretary this go around? Who's he going to tap, do you think?
I know there's some people angling for it. I don't know that I want to call them out right now, but I mean, you can see some of them in Trump world who's doing TV. And I've been, my understanding is that they've made it very clear that they'd like the job.
Levitt, is that it?
That's a name I've heard.
Okay.
There's some others. But I will tell you, having gone through the process myself, I don't Donald Trump, this is a very, unfortunately, if you're a male, like not identify, but if you are an actual male, I don't know that you have it. You're going to be in luck. I think there is a disposition for females. I think President Trump likes that. Also, you've seen Biden actually with Psaki. And so that's my guess that it'll be a female. But I also think that knowing President Trump and watching that he cares about this position. And so it could, there's other people that I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, he was very clear with me about certain people. Heather Nauert, who used to be at Fox, called me after the election. He said, call her. I want her to be the State Department spokesperson. He admired her. He'd gotten to know her. He thought she would do a brilliant job, and she did. He was very specific with me on some of the other positions who he wanted around his administration. And so I wouldn't be surprised if he goes outside the current orbit of people who are speaking for him.
Oh, but you're not going to throw a name out there. You're not going to throw a
No.
prediction.
I don't know. There are names of people. I mean, you mentioned one, Caroline. I've heard the lawyer, Alina Habba. She's another. Now, I don't know. I've not talked to any of them. No one's called me. So I'm not. As reporters call me, they'll say to me, what about these names that we've heard? And so I'm just repeating what reporters have told me. That makes sense. But I'm just telling you that there are names that I think President Trump, as I experienced in 2016, he may have somebody in the back of his head after he wins that said, I want, Tomi Lahren. I've watched, her show on Outkick. I saw her on The Blaze on OAN. I loved, he may personally say, that's what I experienced, that he's got people in his head that he says, I've seen them. I think they do a good job. I'd like them. And all I'm telling you is it doesn't really matter what I think, because I watched how his process works, and he'll have people in mind for certain jobs. I remember, there was a fun story that, after the election, he calls me and says, call Rex Tillerson and tell him that David Friedman's going to be ambassador to Israel. Just that I've chosen him. And I called Rex and said, this is what the president wants. And he has certain people that he wants in certain jobs. I didn't know David. I do know him obviously now, but he's going to have people that he wants. And so everybody will be out there angling for this and that. And then President Trump's going to say, hey, thanks a lot. Here's who I want.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure there'll be no shortage of butt kissing as we get closer, but we're getting.
And you know what? I told someone the other day, Tommy, they said, I will be supportive. There's ways that I can help this administration on a full-time basis. I have no desire to go back in right now. But I said, the fun part is it's just fun to be able to sit back at this point and watch everybody try to angle for these things and spread the word. Although I would caution people in these final, what do we have? 96 hours, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah. I was like, let's win this and then worry about it. So
yes, no, I agree. I'm very superstitious, and it's not just because Halloween was yesterday, but very superstitious. It's not over till it's over. Let's just hope the momentum is there. Sean, I always appreciate you giving me the inside scoop, the stories, and it's always so fun to listen to you and talk to you. Let's hope that we have a pre-Thanksgiving meeting again on your show or mine or both, and we can celebrate. Let's just all pray for that. The best Thanksgiving would be yet to come, and joy would cometh in the morning on Wednesday.
I will tell you, that's the best gift. If people ask me what I want for Christmas, it's just to have a lot of people around me that didn't vote for me. So
Oh, it was such a good time. Nostalgia. Let's hope we can bring it back. Thanks so much, Sean. I appreciate you as always, and best of luck to all of us, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Tommy.
All right, folks, that does it for this very special episode of Tomi Lahren is Fearless. Don't forget, guys, it's not over till it's over. If you have not early voted, by God, please make sure you're voting on Tuesday. Everybody must vote in this thing. That is it for the show today. Please tune in again, of course, Monday, live 1 p.m. Eastern. Catch the YouTube channel at Tomi Lahren is Fearless for full episodes, of course, also on Fox Nation. Enjoy your weekend from Nashville. God bless, and take care. Hey, thanks for watching. If you want more of my hottest takes, must-see conversations, and of course, my final thoughts, click here and make sure you subscribe here so you never miss a beat. I'll be here every weekday, and I hope you'll join me.